Welcome everyone back to the pod. I am Fallon Jordan, and I'm so excited and delighted to have an amazing guest today. We're meeting with Andro Alamar, and so sorry if I didn't say that perfectly.
It's
To reflect
fine.
your amazing essence.
Thank you. It's fine. A lot of people mess it up. It's Andro Auro Alamar. I recently changed it from Oral Andro Alamar just because I wanted to step more into the masculine. And
Love.
Andro is more of the masculine part of that name. So I switched it to Andro Auro Alamar. So I can step into that more this year.
I love that. And that's so funny for, some of my OGs who might be listening because like literally just in the past week have I like fully owned like I am Fallon Jordan and like
Mhm.
claimed that as my name versus like these other names that I was using thinking they were the magical marketing wand when it's like no, it's your
Mhm.
name. And I think it's so fun that you are making that conscious decision like I'm going to change it and like shift things up as I'm shifting and changing, which I think is so cool.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a long journey. I had to consult with an astrologist. Um, who helped me figure out the name and AAA being one and the energy of getting things done.
Cool.
111 and AAA being like the first letter one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took a while and I'm still kind of like, I guess on the fence about the name just because I want something that's like unique and powerful and has all these powerful meanings and it's from dead languages that you just don't hear often and all this stuff. And I want something really, really spectacular. But this so far has been something that really, really fits me and feels good and has changed my life so far really, really well for last year and this year. So
100%. And I mean, I'm in the world where like, most of the people I follow are doing podcasts and summits. And it's like every other post on my social is a graphic of
yeah.
something and then people's name. And like yours stood out of the hundreds that I see every day. So I hope
Thank
that
you.
yeah, that lands.
Yes.
So I'm really excited to dive into your story because you grew up with a family of psychics
Yeah.
and grew up in haunted places. You were afraid of spirits, and you describe your family as scary, which I definitely can relate to that. And I thought that was like just your journey of like claiming all of that and that being part of your story, I think is so cool. So if you just kind of want to dive in, like, when the gifts turned on, when you claimed them, and then when people started reaching out to you for family healing, especially, I know you said addiction, phobias, social anxiety, and narcissism.
Yeah.
And to be honest, those are all very hot topics and like always
Yeah.
will be until more people are doing this work.
Yes. Okay. So I'll start at the beginning. I did grow up in haunted houses and my family are all psychics or healers of some sort.
Yeah.
And it turned on early. Early on I was seeing spirits. Early on I was seeing black beings in the corner of my eye, just like everybody. When you're like in a house and you're alone and you see something like fly across the room,
Yeah.
or you see this black figure in the corner of your eye, or you look in the hallway and something is standing there and you're like, holy shit, I'm about to die.
Yeah.
And then you find out it's just a spirit. But yeah, it started very, very early. It's as soon as I could gain, as soon as I could speak and understand that there was a world beyond what we see,
Mhm.
is when it started, is when I started to kind of understand that there was more to me than most people. So as early as I could possibly fathom, kind of spiritual stuff was happening, ghosts, spirits, again, black figures. But the thing about that is, I'll start with this, is my grandmother, she's a very powerful, like, spiritualist, but not a practicing spiritualist, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Growing up, we would always have this tall black top hat figure in our house that would watch us. And we never knew what the hell it was. We're like, it's very bold and in our face. Like, here, I'm watching you. This is who I am. This is where I am. I'm in your hallway. I'm in your bedroom, in your bathroom. I'm here. We never understood why though. So we're living in fear all this time. We're thinking we're about to get burglarized or worse, or made into a skin lamp. And we find out that it's our grandma,
Mhm.
and it comes whenever she's away. Whenever she's gone, she wants to make sure we're safe. So she'll kind of summon this figure to watch over us, to ensure that we're safe, we're okay, and nothing is happening to the family. So
Wow.
one day we decide to call her and say, hey, we're safe, and the figure vanishes. And that I think is like one of my very first real experiences in my teenage years, my very, very early teenage years, like 13, 14. That's when I really could get a good grasp on like the spiritual one. That's when I really understood, hey, this is what this is. Um, I think even before that, my aunt was very powerful in the psychic world and was gaining notoriety in the psychic world, but I never really gave notice to it. I never really, I guess I could say cared for it just because it was so scary to me. It
Yeah.
was so foreign to me. And we kind of gave her like the brand as a witch, which was really horrible at the time.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know any better. I
Right.
didn't know any better as someone who was born into a family of this and going on to figure out that they were having worse spiritual experiences where my mother told me that when I was younger, there was a woman standing over my crib, playing with a rattle with me.
Wow.
Um, and she left. And as she was coming back into the room with my aunt, they both saw it. So again, it happened very, very early for me, and it was just one of the earliest experiences I could ever imagine. But going on to the rest of my journey, spiritual things always have happened to me. And my intuition just developed that much more stronger as the years kind of, I guess, took their place in my life. And my intuition just got stronger and stronger and stronger to where like I don't get lost. Like I don't get lost anywhere. We went to Burning Man, and if you know anything about Burning Man, it's a desert, just
Yeah.
desert, miles and miles of desert. And one time I got lost there in the deepest depths of the desert and ended up finding my way back. And again, if you know anything about Burning Man, it's all tents, attractions, and stuff like that. There's not much way you can learn. Like it's difficult to kind of like navigate the place if you
Yeah.
don't truly know it. And my
Right.
first time, I went off exploring, got lost, and found my way back. And that just happens all the time. It happened in Mexico when I went on the trip, and it just
Wow.
happens in my life to where I don't get lost. I always find my way back somehow to my house or to wherever I need to go. Um, but yeah, again, it's weird that throughout my life, the intuition has grown to such a powerful level now to where I've become a professional psychic.
So cool.
But yeah.
The
Yes.
rattle thing's kind of trippy because I remember when I was little, like that was like a common thing, and you don't see that anymore. And I have friends who are shamans, and they actually create rattles like with the guides of the baby, and like these very sacred things that actually help get rid of dark entities. So I think that's very interesting, and I just wanted to share that because I think there's people like, oh yeah, rattles, like that was the thing. It's
Yeah.
a thing that it's not a thing now, and we wonder why. Like I think there's a lot of obviously small hints of why there's like more stuff coming out right now, and that was just one that like really stuck in my head when a colleague was talking about that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how certain things come up, especially when you feel like they're not around anymore. And they kind of give you a little bit of like spiritual nudge to look deeper at what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
So I like that, but it always felt like the spirits around me were never bad. Even though I was definitely afraid of them, and it never really felt like they were bad, and I always have been very, very protected. Which is just wild to me because I never felt like the best person. So I'm like, why are you here? You know? But yeah, I love that stuff like that happens because it gives you kind of like a nudge to understand that there's something looking out for you. And that the world isn't such a scary place, and neither are things you can't see.
Yeah, I love that. That's wild about the top hat man too. I was wondering how my cat was going to react because he's had a man in a top hat following him for many, many lives. And we finally got to the bottom of it a few months ago, and it was like a very significant past life trauma. And as of a few days ago, the guy is finally gone.
Okay. I love that. I love that your cat is having that experience.
Yeah.
Just because I understand that cats live kind of like in a duality all the time. They live in between worlds.
Yeah.
So they're very open to the spirit world, and I love that so much.
I know, it's interesting I mean, I love all animals, I really do, but like it's just so interesting when I started learning more about what like the things that you just said. And I'm like, oh yeah, like my cat definitely sleeps a lot more than my dog ever did. And like
Mhm,
cats only sleep more than dogs. And it's because they're in the astral so much.
mhm,
And I'm like,
mhm.
no wonder my cat gives me more insight than my dog did. My dog was just like very much in the 3D.
Yeah, it's like dogs come here for unconditional love.
Yeah.
Cats come here for like expansion and peace and just to be wild in
Yeah,
like the best way possible.
exactly. Yeah. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So we're recording this February 1st, and I don't know about you, but like I woke up like fucking ready to go today. Like there, like, you feel like this month's gonna be like extra, extra magical.
I do. I feel like the year is going to be extra magical just because I think that we're in a year of eight astrologically. And the number eight is abundance. So I feel it all year, but I feel like you have to be open to it.
Mhm.
I feel like the year is set to be very abundant for everyone who is open to experiencing it.
Totally.
And to be open, you have to do the healing work. You have to make sure that you're in the paradigm of openness to abundance and prosperity. Um, and you have to understand that it's your birthright to be abundant and prosperous.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I
I love
think, yeah,
that.
this year is going to be great. This month is going to be great, but I think it'll only be great for you if you're open to that greatness and if you're willing to do the work to get off your ass and do it.
Yeah. I'm kind of at this style where I'm like totally fine ruffling feathers, but also like lighting a fire under people's asses because I'm like, it's the year of eight, it's the year of abundance. So you can either have an abundance of problems and scarcity and like trouble, or you can have an abundance of good things. Like you are the one in the driver's seat.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I think it's one thing we have to consider, or not consider, but we have to realize is like our world is only as powerful as we make it, or only as good as we make it. So if we're always focused on crap, that's what we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to be stuck in your old paradigms. But I think the energy of this year is really like aggressive. It's like you really need to do something this year. You really need to get that business started. You really need to 10x your business. You really need to 10x your income. You really need to 10x your client base. The year feels like pressure in a
Yeah.
sense to get everything together and ready and moving more than it feels like you can just sit. Because
Yeah.
usually like I'm relatively lazy and I don't want to do anything because I have whatever paradigms come up. But the healing has been like nonstop, shadow work every day, healing, healers, talking with people, change, things that are coming up that I just didn't realize were still stuck in my paradigm, in my body, in my unconscious, that are coming up like crazy. My pen is always moving because of the constant realizations. Um, yeah, I want this year to be like the year of like coaches and really changing my life for the better. I think
I
everybody's gonna be
love
open to
that.
it.
I love that so much. Yeah, that's amazing. So I'm curious, just because some of the things that I learned about you like kind of stuck out. I would love to hear your take because people talk about alcohol is called a spirit because it lets in spirits. And then of course, like you're dealing with your demons when you're dealing with like drug addiction and like there's those generalization stigmas. I would love to hear some of the work that you've done and some of the people you've healed. And like, I mean, I would love you're an expert. So I would love to hear your take on all of that.
Okay. Yeah, so the part that I left out earlier was my kind of origin story into healing. Um, Growing up in a psychic family, it doesn't have it's not without its issues.
Right.
My mother was a narcissist, a drug addict, and very, very abusive. So I grew up in that world. I grew up in a world where I didn't know who I was because you can't when you're living with a narcissist. You can't know who you are when the narcissist feels like God and when the narcissist has power over every aspect of your life.
Right.
And when they don't, they take that power.
Yeah.
So I know that world very well. I was raised and babysat by people who did crack regularly. I even had a taste of crack when I was in my very, very younger years, which is scary as hell, but thank
Wow.
God I'm not like on the streets doing it, you know.
Yeah.
But not funny, but funny for me.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I think growing up in one of the worst situations you can possibly live in as a child, coming up very sensitive, very emotional, and not having the freedom to be all of those things, and not only that, to be a human beyond what you can do servitude wise for that person who is God in your life, that narcissist, was really kind of I would say the beginning of my healing and my healing work. So at 18, I finally escaped the narcissist. And I moved in with a friend, and the healing began.
Yay.
So I got certified as a Theta healer. And Theta now is like the basis of everything I do. So it's the basis of my psychic work, it's the basis of my own healing, it's the basis of the work that I do with other people. And the thing that kind of like exemplifies Theta healing is digging. And getting to the root cause of everything in your life. Holy shit, my lighting. Sorry.
Like, we're paying attention to you. This is important.
I don't know why I just brightened up like that. But anyways,
I love that.
but yeah, I got started, and that's weird. This keeps changing. That's so weird. It does
So
not.
if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, like, it would be worth going to YouTube and watching, because this shit is like really trippy and it's amazing right now.
It's weird how it does not do, like, my light is kind of like, it's not expensive, but it's not cheap, and it does not change unless I physically touch it. So
Yeah.
it changing is weird in the middle of it. Something's happening. Someone's here. But anyway, so I got my start in Theta healing at 18 when I finally was out of my parents' house and finally left the narcissistic abuse. It was like, it was weird because it was like a coming together of everything, like a great explosion in the household.
Yeah.
We had gone to learn Theta healing at a friend's house, and we came back, and my mom went crazy and turned the entire house against myself and my aunt, who were doing this together at the same time. And practically, we couldn't do anything else but leave, because at that point, it was at a point where we were in very physical danger, very real physical danger, as in, like, her husband was like a prisoner. He had a propensity to shoot, and my brother was on the same path as my mother, just crazy. So we came home, and they were waiting for us because she had convinced them that we were talking crap about them at a healing event, which is crazy. And at that point, we had to make the decision to leave or not be safe and continue this cycle for the rest of our lives. So we left, and we left together. And that was the real beginning of my practice as a Theta healer, and my practice in healing people who have addictions, who come from narcissistic abuse, and who want to survive it. And that's when people started coming to me, because they understood my story as a practitioner. And I kind of began to sell myself as a Theta healer, and work with people who went through the same things. And it's wild when you go through this, you never really understand that there are other people who go through the same thing at a level the same or worse. I think the weirdest thing about going through abuse or trauma is that, like, you tell yourself it could be worse. It could have been worse. I could have been, like, trapped in a cage or sex trafficked or whatever. It could have been way worse. And like, you use that as a way to kind of like negate how bad it really was, or how bad it was for you, because again, there are people who have it so much worse. But I think that's where you can begin your healing, is understanding that your bad is still bad, and it's okay to understand that your bad was bad. So
yeah, I see that a lot. Like, PTSD is PTSD. Like, there is, to me, like, there's like, I got to meet Charlie Plum, who was like captive for like 6 years as a POW, and like his story was crazy, but like it was part of his soul contract, and he decided to grow and heal, and now he speaks around the world about resilience, and like us all having our own little cells where we tell ourselves that like the things that we want in our life are not possible.
yeah.
So I appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of people, that's like their first immediate response as coping, is like, well, it could have been worse. It could have been this, could have been this. And I'm totally guilty of that 100%. But when you dig down and you're like, nope, like, we are meant to be born and to be nurtured and to be loved and appreciated and treated, like the little miracles that we are. And when you're not, like, PTSD is PTSD.
Yeah. And I think another thing about that is, like, the thing that really helped me was understanding that it's okay and safe to take up space. In any capacity that you want to take up space. I think I lived my life being so afraid to take up space that it showed up in a very tangible way in my clothes, in my stature. I'm very, very tall, so I would always like hunch over or try to bring myself in so that I
Yeah.
wasn't big everywhere. Or that I wasn't imposing, because again, I'm very tall, very big. So when I'm around, people kind of look at me like, holy shit, what is that? You know?
And together.
Yeah, so I've always lived that lifestyle of kind of like trying to diminish myself, even though big charismatic energy. Um, I always felt it because it always felt dangerous. Am I glitching?
A little bit.
Sorry, what is going on today?
Sorry. I was gonna pull out my pendulum and clear some shit.
That would be awesome.
So I'm gonna do that now.
And I'll do a little bit of like healing.
Yeah. I love when I don't even have to ask her. She's just like immediately going to work.
I never have these technical issues like ever, and the light keeps going like in and out of color. That is so weird. There's
I love
my
it. Taylor Swift's glitch song is like permanently stuck in my head when things like this happen. So thank you, because I love that song.
Weird.
Yeah. So what are some common themes that you see with people who are suffering from addiction? Like, do you see like certain like entities or certain like core issues? Like,
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't answer your question.
it's okay.
I'll answer that question first and then I'll kind of go back into it a little bit. But yeah, there are a lot of common issues I see with addiction. Usually when I work with people with addiction, I see them running from something. That is the biggest thing, is I see them running from something.
Okay.
Did it freeze again? It froze again, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you hear anything or should I say it again?
Yeah, I heard you.
Okay. Yeah, the biggest thing I see with people who are suffering from addiction is they're running from something or someone or some experience that happened to them. Usually a deep shame, a deep guilt, a deep trauma that happened from a family or parent. But usually shame and guilt, those are the two the biggest and most powerful things.
Yeah.
Often also I see anger too. Some people run from anger. And they tend to be very, very angry people, which is like the weirdest thing ever. Because like when they're drunk, they're like, or drunk or high or whatever, they're fun, nice,
Yeah.
all these good things. When they're not, they're just angry at whatever happened to them. So yeah, addiction, or when I find somebody who has addiction, it's usually because they're either running or hiding from something. So we have to understand or help them understand what that is and that it's safe to address it. And then I make a space for them to feel safe addressing it. But yeah, those are the biggest things: it's shame, guilt, running, hiding, anger. And usually I will attack that ancestrally, or lineage wise, just because a lot of the times, and this is a really big thing to say, is a lot of the times when things show up in your life, especially like big patterns that you cannot break, they do not belong to you. They belong to a lineage, a person in your lineage who had this and who passed it on to you. So you can get things from your lineage that pass on to you, like anger, abuse, contracts of poverty, sexual abuse, all this stuff. Things come from your lineage and are very present in your lineage sometimes, that are passed on from your grandmother to your mother to you. So a lot of times if you suffered these things, it's probably because someone in your lineage had suffered it as well and passed on kind of that conditioning of suffering to you. And you may have to work through that or find someone to help you work through that.
100%. And I'm so glad you shared that, because I mean, there's places that charge a ridiculous amount of money for addiction treatment and they're not looking at this stuff. And most of the time that's what it is, you know?
I think it's a good thing to go to these places and talk to them, because you get very tangible data that it's safe to talk about it. So it's good in that aspect, but I think energy healing is the best way to go, because you don't really have to talk about it. They'll see it usually. They'll go within you and find it and help you uproot it. But you still have to deal with the powerful emotions attached to it. You still have to deal with the anger. You still have to deal with the sadness, the rage, the PTSD, the yada, yada, yada. You have to deal with all that still. But I think it's a little bit easier when someone is able to uproot it from your very soul, your core. someone who can take it out of your lineage so that you're not suffering this as you continue on your life. And so that you're not passing on to your kids if you have them, or if you're going to have them, if you plan on having them.
Exactly.
That's my biggest thing is if I ever planned on having kids, I would want my lineage clean and clear of all the things that kind of have been like planted in there by my lineage, because I don't want them to have the things that hold me back or held me back, or
Yeah.
that keep me in whatever negative emotional state that I have been stuck into. Because again, a lot of the stuff that I was stuck into did not belong to me. The depression, anxiety, abuse, the thinking I wasn't inadequate, the believing that my life is worthless. None of that was mine, even though I was kind of conditioned to it in this life. It came from my mom. So I kind of had my own present conditioning, and I had the lineage conditioning from her. So, and my father, because both of them never really felt like enough, and both of them were highly and presently addicted to drugs. So I had all that in my DNA, and had to work through it over like a decade. And I think even I'm gonna probably still be working on it for the rest of my life. So I can be a better human and not be a monster. But yeah, I think healing is a continuous journey. I think a lot of people are kind of trying to like beat the stigma of it being, you have to always be healing. Sorry to go on a tangent, but
Don't be sorry. This is
I
amazing.
think a lot of people don't want to do healing because they think it's never ending, or they don't want to start because they think you have to be always healing. But you don't have to always be healing. I think my belief is you always have to be healing, because you always have to be better. But I think the consensus is that you shouldn't always have to do healing. You should heal and then move on from whatever it is, and still live a great life and still find happiness and joy. But I think that requires healing to get there if you're not there yet, obviously.
Yeah. I love the comparison of like, like a home, right? Like you have to kind of go into all the rooms, go through all of the shit that you don't want to, but you got to do it. Then you can either completely fix the house, or you can tear the house down and build a new one. So that there's a little bit of going through stuff you don't want to. There's a little bit of digging up stuff, but then you get to build it. And then, if you want to continue adding on and making it bigger, or you want to upgrade to something bigger and better, like you can do that. But it's just so interesting that we do think that, but that's also part of the programming of money, right? I'm always going to be having to work until I depend on the government to support me after I quote unquote retire, which means I'm going to be doing literally nothing and just letting my brain rot until I get dementia. So like when we think of healing and we think of money and we think of purpose, like they're all related. And so if you're listening and you're like, yeah, I know somebody who thinks that way, like if I start, I'm not going to ever stop. Like think of how that comes up in your relationships. Think of that, how it comes up with your relationship with money, and if you're living your purpose or not, and, doing your mission's work, because they're all interconnected and you're here for a reason. And like, why not be the best version of yourself? And if at the end of the day, you're like, I could have done such and such better, like you just forgive yourself and move on. Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want you to like think that you have to just always be healing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And like doing, quote unquote, doing the work, as in doing, like there's some times where like, especially some of my clients who've just been go, 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 and they do everything for everyone else all the time. And I say like, what would happen if you went away for 2 days to a cabin, you hung out in nature, and then you just like binged a couple of your favorite shows without anyone bothering you? They're like, I don't know if I could do that. I would feel guilty. And then we dig into the guilt. And then it's like, that literally is one of the healing things. Like you have to just do like therapy, past life regression, your energy thing for everything. Like you can literally use the things that bring you joy and relaxation as the healing. And it, like that's just that guilt programming, and things can't be that easy programming when in our sense, like things can be easy and they can be fun.
And healing can be easy because all healing is awareness. 80% of healing is awareness.
Yeah.
As long as you know what the issue is, then you can work through it. But I think if you're having issues where you're worried about everything you just said, I think the biggest thing is to find out why. Why are you guilty about giving yourself time? Why are you guilty about living in your happiness? Why are you guilty about taking time away? And why do you feel like you have to work your ass off in order to survive?
Yeah, exactly.
Once you get to the root of them, again, do the work. All you really need is awareness. Write it down somewhere, and if you feel like it comes up again, go back to it and go a little bit deeper. But I think that's just my kind of like thing, is because again, I started off with Theta healing at the beginning of my spiritual journey. So my thing is always digging. I always have to find the root of something. Because again, I don't like repeating old patterns, even
Yeah.
if I do sometimes. So yeah, I think the thing is to find the root of why you're doing whatever you're doing on a repeated basis, and keep exploring it. But again, it's not difficult, and you don't have to do it every single day. You don't have to be Guru Pitka or Mother Teresa or
Yeah.
whoever. You don't have to be any of these people. You just have to be growing every single day, and that's spiritually, physically, financially, relationship wise, mentally, all these things.
I love that. So I pulled cards for us at some point when you were sharing something, and I
Mhm.
pulled the increased awareness card,
Hmm.
and I also pulled the remove attachments to outcome card.
I love that.
I have been pulling this freaking card forever. So hopefully this isn't for me and it's for those of you who are listening. If it is for me, I am definitely doing that. I am letting things go and giving it to God to handle.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. I love these cards.
I
It's
think
just
that was for me a little bit because I've been focused lately on how I can increase my abilities and my
mm,
connectedness. Um,
oh,
and I've been also worried about how I can get my business to a place that makes me happier. So those cards definitely speak to me in a sense of telling me not to focus on the outcome, because I do focus a lot on the outcome of like where it's going to come from,
yeah.
or I'll think about like, how am I going to get the income I want and where is it going to come from? Like, is it going to come from my business or product I create or whatever? I do worry a lot about the income. So I think that card spoke to me just a little bit too. If it spoke to
Oh,
anybody else, raise your hand. But yeah.
love that. So I would just like, if you're open to a little bit of advice, like just joy, creativity, play, like you know this, right? But
Mhm.
like I have a friend, I tell her this all the time, and then she still just keeps doing 3D work. And I'm like, this isn't aligned action.
Yeah.
Come paint with me, come hang out with me, watch a funny movie. Like it's just and I can totally relate. Even today I got a reading, any Scorpios or anyone with Scorpio in their chart, the release attachment to outcome is like huge for us this month. And if we can do it, like crazy, amazing miracles are going to open up. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Really good thing for Scorpios who are listening to understand, and maybe even fire signs.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times you guys are kind of like similar to other fire signs in an aspect of like what is time to let go of and work through.
Yep.
Um, and I think the fire signs are relatively similar in what they have to endure to a degree.
It's just funny because I get to listen to this stuff and like a lot of it sounded as if it was like letting go a possible romantic person that like you know isn't good for you, but you're still stuck on them. And it's so
Mhm.
funny that like that's what one person hears, and like me, I'm immediately thinking of my business. I'm like, my business is my romantic partner. Like
Yeah.
this is the only thing that matters right now.
Exactly, exactly.
I love that. So speaking of which, do you have any exciting offers right now, or what are ways that people can work with you?
If you want to work with me, you can shoot me an email, or I would say go to my website, but I'm really scatterbrained when it comes to my website's name and or knowing it by heart, which is really dumb. I should really get that together. But right now I'm doing a summit.
Fun.
I'm working on a summit for March. It's gonna release on March 15th,
Yay.
and about understanding the healing power of love. So it was for February because February obviously is the month of love.
Yeah.
And I wanted to release it February, but it just wasn't enough time, and I kind of started a little bit late. So things are going to be unveiled, I'll say March 15th.
Yay.
I'm getting speakers now, and I'm excited to have people who want to like watch it come on and
Yeah.
information on love in all aspects, because it compiles a lot of people: coaches, relationship coaches, intimacy coaches, um, people who have autism, transgender people, non-binary people, other gay people, just everyone who has an idea about love, um, and like I guess the lens and difference that love has will be on there.
I love that.
There'll be so many perspectives.
Amazing. Cool. Well, definitely we'll put the link below for you guys so you can get involved. And then I'll probably just send a little email or a post just inviting people because I love summits. Summits is like literally what helped me get into this field. So I'm excited that you did that.
That's awesome. And thank you for letting me share that. And also I drew 2 cards also from my tarot deck. And I drew one from my curse word tarot deck. So if you don't like being cursed at, you might not want to
I'm excited.
continue listening. But the 2 cards that I picked are kind of cryptic, so they're gonna need me like to explain them a little bit.
Okay.
Because my deck is like, it's an African deck.
Cool.
You see it?
Wow, I love that.
And I love this deck just because it feels like it connects me a little bit, and it's the first deck I've ever bought with my own money that just feels like
That's like your baby.
yeah. Okay, so I'll do the swear one first.
Yay.
Oh, okay. It's abrasive, so get ready if you're watching and listening. Get ready. Okay. It says, it's kind of backwards.
Oh my God, I love it.
It says, the idiot is fucking clueless, and it's the 2 of Pentacles. Okay.
Oh my God, I need to get that deck because I'm like just getting into tarot and like I have my little instruction book. Like that's my style. I love that.
It's the square deck from Etsy. So you'll find it there.
Fun.
Yeah. You'll find it there if they still have it in stock, but I think I bought the last one. So yeah, go there and check it out. But that card, it usually means that, or when I get the card for people or collective, it usually means not the most aggressive thing that it says. It feels aggressive, and it is very aggressive because it's calling you an idiot.
Yeah.
But it just means that you feel lost.
Or
you may feel lost, and it's time for you to get clarity on where you're lost.
Love that.
Time for you to figure out what you need to do to live your best life and your best version. It's time for you to get clear on that. It's time for you to do the work to get your life ready for all the things that you desire the most. I think you know what that is, whoever's listening, whoever's watching. But I think it's time, and it's calling you an idiot because I think in this moment you may feel clueless about where to go or how to do it. And the card is also urging you to not be an idiot, to find the clarity you want to, and understand that it's easy to find that clarity. And once you get clear, move forward.
I love that. Yeah, that definitely resonates for me, for sure.
And then these 2 cards are very, very cryptic. If you can see them, I don't want to move close and like blur it or anything, but oh, there you go. Okay.
I see some swords. I see a goat. I see some wolves.
I'll do one at a time, see if I can get closer. Okay, there we go. And then I disappear. Magical. Then here's this one.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, so I'll do the first one, or the 3 of Wands with the goat underneath the coyotes. I mean the goat near the hyenas. This card is the 3 of Wands. And this one is exploration, discovery, boldness, decisiveness, and the readiness of spirit. The goat has his horns bared, ready to fight the hyenas. He's ready to fight any adversity to get where he wants to go and get what he wants. He's ready to fight any adversity to he or she or they or them, whatever. They're ready to fight any adversity to get what they want. And I feel like that's the energy of this year. It is time for you to fight any adversity to get where you need to go.
Yeah.
And I think also the card to me feels like things look scarier than they actually are, because you walk past hyenas all the time and they do nothing but bark and laugh.
Yeah.
And usually hyenas are relatively a pack animal, so they're not going to attack you unless all of them attack you. So I think in this aspect, it's time for you to brave the adversity, whatever you believe the adversity might be, and continue moving forward, and understand that it's not as scary as you think it is. And that's this card again.
I love that.
But I love cryptics because it really helps me paint a picture, and I am a very creative
Yeah.
picture telling person. So yeah.
So
And the
cool.
next card is the Eight of Swords. And this one is kind of like scary a little bit because, oh, why am I disappearing? What the hell? Okay, so there's a werewolf in the background, and there's a man running around the circle. It's almost like he's being chased around this circle. But he has everything in front of him to succeed. Again, it's a lot like the first card. It's like you're facing adversity and you're more afraid than you actually should be. You're more afraid than, the way I want to say it is, you're more afraid of what is out there than what really is out there, if that makes any sense. Like you're afraid
Yeah.
of what ifs. Like you're afraid of what if this in A, B, and C happens, when these things are really not possible. Like you know
Yeah.
that you're someone who is protected, you know that you're someone who is gifted, you know that you have these abilities, but you don't truly believe them, and it's time for you to believe them. So this card is more so about empowerment and empowering yourself. Um, and writing your own story, making your own version and vision the way that you truly want it to be. I think this year is a really great year for that to happen. For you to really create everything that you want. Again, by getting clear and understanding what you truly want and putting your best foot forward to do so. So,
Love.
yeah.
I literally had a werewolf like dream the other night.
Oh, snap.
And the
That
best part is that the person who came to rescue me was Larry David, who I love.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm very excited for the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm to come out. I literally put it on my calendar like months ago, like what I'll be doing.
I think it's going to be a great year, not just for Curb Your Enthusiasm,
Yeah.
but everyone who is ready for it. So now you just got to get ready.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and your beauty and your insight and just your really cool, unique story.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me share all these things. I hope that I gave enough today for people to kind of get a good grasp on who I am and what I've been through and what I do. And I hope that they enjoy the interview. I hope
They
you enjoyed it.
I will. I mean, there's like so much crazy, amazing energy. Like, I'm so excited for whoever tunes in. Like, you were definitely meant to hear this and to be in Andrew and I's world. And I will put the links below that I told you about. And I will see everyone next time. Thank you so much for being here.
Yay!